Right. Yeah. So we're going to do some emails. We are going to talk All-Stars Gate and Shane O'Donnell and League Cup, I guess. It's 50 years since Rumble in the Jungle. We were thinking about doing that, but then...
I was like, what? It hasn't been said about this already, you know?
The day has got away from me, so I haven't had a chance. Look, we better go. Conan's got to train. Gosh, that's
come on.
Important thing here.
Tight 25 spectacular minutes here.
I'm going to be giving you one word on. Don't be worried.
If you need to walk out, just walk out. Hello, everyone. Far too late in the week, Bits and Bobs making an appearance in your feed. Conan, hello.
Hello, Joe.
Ronan, hello.
Hi, Joe.
It's been an intense week. It's nice to just, talk nonsense for a little bit.
Talk nonsense for your buddies. Safe space here now, Joe.
That's just been intense, So we had Johnny Doyle on Monday, and then Jonathan Wilson, Emergency, Eric Ten Hag's Sacking Podcast, Dense. Then we had Not the Monday Panel, Horse Racing Omerta. Then we had Emergency, Graham Roundtree's Mutual Agreement, Parting of the Ways. Almost said the wrong phrase there. With Keane Tracy. And that was swiftly followed by Paul McGinley, 80 minutes, wonderfully intense interview. And then Rugby with Ian Madigan and Keane today. Richie Hogan tomorrow. I just want to talk guff, It's been meaty, substantive week, I think.
A very substantive week.
I need some froth in there.
Yeah, we have an antidote for that right now.
Every time I saw a new episode being published on the stream, I just kept saying, Ballon d'Or for Joe.
Have you heard about this on... Who was it saying it? Oh, Marina Hyde was saying on her podcast that I think at all the streaming services now, she may have mentioned Netflix, there's now the concept when you're pitching shows of ones that will work as a second screen companion. So I love your detective thriller. However, we just feel it's a bit too complex, a bit too much nuance because a huge percentage of the audience will now be on their phone and watching. So can you dumb it down a bit?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's what this is.
I was just going to say, this is why we've been brought in now for the Dumb Down podcast.
That's what I always find with audiobooks. I'm like, they're great in theory, but then I'm like, damn, I missed like 3 important parts there.
100%.
You know what I mean?
The only audiobooks I can listen to are autobiographies because they're a bit more straightforward.
Matthew McConaughey's autobiography is a must listen. I don't know if it's a must read, but it's a must listen because he just starts diverging on random, like stuff that's not in the book.
Does he?
He just gets cues. He's like, oh yeah.
He's tried to turn himself into a self-help guru of sorts.
Who hasn't?
Well, the last one I listened to, I'm listening to Conor Nyland's one at the moment. Shout out to Conor and Gavin Cooney. William Hill Sports Book of the Year shortlist. So I'm listening to that, very enjoyable an audiobook. And the one before that was Bono's. Anyone Bono's?
Oh, that's a good one, yeah.
Well, Bono, and it makes sense, really, includes music. He sings and there's a life to it. And he does his father's accent when he's doing his father's voice. And kind of commits to it in a musical, interesting way. I think a lot of audiobooks are fairly straight. But Bono, brings a kind of dynamic quality to it.
It's a game changer when the actual protagonist of the book is doing it themselves.
Yeah.
It's such a letdown when it's someone else. You're like, oh, this is taking me out of it completely.
Yeah.
So we have lots of emails and we have All-Stars Gate and we have League Cup and we have Shane O'Donnell comments to get through. The emails, by the way, are fantastic. Indo Sport podcast at independent.ie. Thank you for sending them all in. We don't read out all of them. I was saying on the rugby podcast, I'm getting all the rumours from Munster rugby fans by email this morning, for instance. So in no particular order, Mark said, loving the show. I watch on YouTube. The shows are published pretty late in the day, though. Why is this? And are the non-video audio only pods released at an earlier regular time? Thanks, Mark. Mark, they are. The podcasts are released earlier, before 4 o'clock at the latest, and often before that. So if you just go into whatever podcast app that you listen to your podcasts on and search for Indo Sport, we will be with you much earlier in the day. I don't actually know why the videos are up later. That would be Conan's fault. I mean, responsibility.
We're in a lot of talks about it. We're continuously trying to improve the video offering. Just trying to streamline things going forward. Yeah, but that is obviously the aim. We want the video going up very close to when the
Will we ever live stream?
It's up to yourself, Joe. You are in the hot seat.
I don't mind.
Oh, I don't mind either. Do you mind, Ronan?
Oh, well, it depends on the podcast.
We could do that.
Yeah.
So I guess the short version is the podcasts are up much earlier and we're going to get better at the videos in time.
It's bigger files at the minute, small team at the minute, not complete yet. A lot of equipment that we're still in the process of getting. Yeah, we're getting there.
We're honestly, I mean, I sort of said we're a startup at the start. We really are. I mean, it's a miracle it's all gone so well, but we're figuring all that stuff out.
Yeah.
Next email. Hello, fellas. As a child of the 90s, I grew up a Manchester United supporter. Since moving to New York in 2011, I've drifted away. I still follow their results, but I probably have watched fewer than 10 games since Eric Ten Hag took over. Anyway, on Sunday, I was cleaning up our dining living room and I switched on the West Ham game. I made lunch for my two daughters, 5 and 3 years old respectively, and they sat down. I fully expected them to ask/demand for channel to be changed. However, a shocking thing happened and they started asking me questions about the game and were watching along with me. I then thought, what if they like this and want to watch more? Who should I encourage them to support? As I mentioned, I'm a lapsed United supporter. I couldn't encourage Man City, Chelsea or Newcastle, given to the state aspect, he means, or the ownership aspect. Liverpool and Arsenal are two teams who have turned their fortunes around, quote, the right way, as much as you can anyway, he says in brackets. But those were the clubs that were United's rivals when I was growing up, so I have a residual resistance to that. I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts, because I see some of my friends have their team jerseys ready to go as soon as the children are born, and it's always seemed a little silly to me. Anyway, enjoying the podcast. Regards, John. Conan, I presume Derry jersey's already been bought?
There is a concern with that because we're in Dublin. Does Dublin need any more footballers? A coach at the club that I'm at, Skerry's Harps, is from Derry, used to play for Derry, and 3 of his children are playing for Dublin. One with the Dublin senior men's, one with the Dublin senior ladies, and one with the Dublin boys minors. And it's like, they're all of Derry blood and they're playing with Dublin. So to answer your question, Joe, yes, the Derry jersey has already been bought. Good. And my wife has already agreed if the child is of a certain standard, then he's going to have to play for Derry. But if he's okay, then Dublin can have him.
Bit of a commute.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing, actually. I think it's dawning on my parents and even myself a touch that my daughter is going to support Dublin. She's only 20 months. But we've taught her how to say up the dubs just to annoy my grandparents from Mayo.
That's rough, Joe. That is rough.
Now, she doesn't know what she's saying.
Yeah.
I would say in response to John, this is a very simple situation. You absolutely should indoctrinate your daughters, and not for any cynical reasons. No more than Derry, Manchester United do not need 2 more fans. However, having grown up in a house where I supported Manchester United like my dad, and then 2 younger brothers, I didn't want to be copycatted. You know, you want your own individuality. Like, I railed against them supporting United. You shouldn't support United. You support. So next one in line is a Liverpool supporter, and youngest is an Arsenal supporter.
Wow.
And now that we're all grown up, it strikes me as what a terrible decision. Because think of all the many, many happy trips we could have made to Old Trafford together as a family, which never happened. Like, so we haven't gone to Premier League games together ever. I've got my dad who supports United. But I'm not going to go to Anfield with my brother to watch Liverpool play random Premier League team. Not really. I mean, you could, but, or even like the WhatsApp groups where I presume it's a family full of United supporters. It's a great common interest. We don't have that. And I think in hindsight, that's for the worse, you know? So I'd say, like, John, here's the deal. Indoctrinate them. And in 10 years' time, you and your 15 and 13-year-old daughters will be making the trek to Old Trafford together. Be an amazing family trip. You know, it'll be beautiful. Yeah. So it's a no-brainer for me, indoctrination, I think.
Yeah, a friend of mine, I think like most people in most schools my age, it was a split between Liverpool fans, Man United fans, Arsenal fans. A couple of Leeds fans carry over from that era. Aston Villa fans, but mainly those 3. And one of my friends was like, I'm not having this. So he became a Chelsea fan when he was like really young, and he like Zola and Poyet and Di Matteo and all these kind of, like, a really feel-good club.
Yeah.
Dennis Wise, maybe, you know. But yeah, and then the Abramovich thing happened, and then for his whole secondary school experience, I was like, oh, you're just a Chelsea fan because, and I was like, no, he's an original. I can corroborate. He is an original.
His primary school mates knew.
Yeah.
We move into what was a big theme on Friday's panel of just fitness. Huge number of emails. Apologies, I can't get to them all, but it's something people are very engaged on, our general fitness and our relationship with exercise. So, for instance, Anya, who's listening in London, was in touch. Really enjoying the podcast, particularly bits and bobs.
Wow.
Hey? Mm-hmm. And panel discussions. I found the podcast on adult exercise levels and things the government could do to encourage more exercise really interesting. I thought you might be interested in a real-life example of this. I live in Tower Hamlets. It's a borough in East London. And the local government recently introduced free swimming for women over 16 and men over 55, free swimming, as they've been identified as groups with the lowest activity levels and the poorest health outcomes. Interestingly, in Tower Hamlets, women live on average 7 years less than men, which is contrary to most parts of the country in Europe. Thanks, Anya. And she sent an article to that effect. And it's interesting in the article, by the way, I know there's a UK situation as opposed to Ireland, but in the UK, 1,000 swimming pools have closed in the last 14 years. That's something. I guess they're expensive to run. But that was one initiative. Next email from Michael. Hi, Joe and team, loving the podcast. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Michael. Thanks for having this discussion around PE on Friday's panel podcast. I am someone who studied to be a PE teacher recently, but eventually packed it in due to a number of reasons. But one of them was the children. Well, most of them in the school where I did my practice had very little interest in doing any exercise during PE. I was there for 6 weeks. This was when he was doing his training. And I went into it thinking I could change anyone's attitude about the importance of PE, but I found myself so disheartened by week 3. As much as I tried, the kids had no desire for it, and they saw attending the class as a tick-the-box exercise. The straw that broke the camel's back for my enthusiasm was the number of children coming in with notes from their parents asking for their kids to be excused from the class for any number of reasons. And I'm sure most were genuine, but the lack of interest and disdain towards PE seemed to be passed down in some cases, unfortunately. Thanks, Michael. Yeah, grim. It's mad. I mean, look at my day, PE, you were counting down the seconds.
Yeah, and there is something to that, not to turn it into, I think we've said this before, turn it into things used to be better podcast, but there's that element. I used to coach in primary schools in Derry, and I loved it, but I remember a couple of particularly difficult children, just, they might not have been as interested. They were just, acting up or whatever, doing what children do. But I remember speaking to some of the parents afterwards, thinking that they would understand. I was sort of like, little Johnny was at it again. But it was very much like, well, what did you do? What did the class do? And that was my first sort of experience of that type of thing, where obviously parents are protective of their children and they will obviously want to care for them and look after them as best as possible. But for me, it was a bit more like, oh no, this is just sort of what happens, when you put children together and you play a bit of sport. And I think more and more then, if you bring that into the PE sphere, people are probably buying into that, like looking after my child. This might not be the best thing for him. This might be better if he sits it out.
I interpreted his email as the children saying to mum and dad, I don't want to do that. And mum or dad saying, okay, I'll write you a note.
Exactly. But I suppose I'm thinking, back in the day, it might have been a bit more like, no, you're going to do that.
You bloody will.
Yeah, you'll enjoy that.
Yeah. But again, I went to an all-boys school and Michael in his email, I've edited down some of these emails, by the way. He does acknowledge sometimes with teenage girls there can be more complicated reasons. But in my all-boys school, I don't remember anyone sitting it out or wanting to, really. Maybe that was unusual. I don't know.
I do remember when people didn't bring their gear.
Oh yeah, but that felt like punishment.
But they were still. But I still remember them being made to do it. It's like, we'll get you a pair of shorts, we'll get you socks, and then they would be wearing their school shoes as well at the same time.
It's never a strong look.
Never. So it would make you want to not do it, and obviously you're not going to get away with that now. But that's sort of feeding into my example.
Yeah.
I think PE in my school was a mixed bag. Like I think it was, to your point, Joe, broadly something we look forward to, also an all-boys school. But there was certainly an element, so there's going to be a non-insignificant amount of people who aren't into sports.
Sure.
And it felt like we were doing an awful lot of stuff that magnified their lack of interest or lack of talent. And I'm even cautious to use the word talent because they don't care. Like, they don't care if they can strike with the right and left foot. You know what I mean? So the fact that they were made to play five-a-side against lads who were playing underage for Ireland in my school, Like, why? How's that even fair? Like, I think there had to be stuff, and I think there is now, which made everything a level playing field, and it's about, you know, flexibility and that kind of thing, rather than who can score the most goals. That's going to be off-putting.
I hear you. I think in retrospect, I must have had exceptional PE teachers, especially at secondary level, whereby we tried any number of sports, badminton, javelin, volleyball, as well as the core kind of Irish sports, like a full array of athletics. Like, so a great chance if you might have been aerobically fit, but you could have been strong weightlifting.
Yeah.
They trained us in circuits and how to do any number of weights and core exercises, and it was a brilliant offering. It wasn't just here's the ball and go and play for an hour. It was exceptionally good. Obviously, that's my anecdotal experience. The school down the road may have been just throwing the ball in for an hour, and understandably some kids said, well, sod that, I don't know.
No, I think similarly there was probably a quota of stuff that they had to get through, so we did play badminton and all that kind of stuff, but there was, because it was a football school, soccer school, really. We wanted to play football. We were like, oh, come on, give us 10 minutes to the end. And I said, all right, fair enough. You know, so we were kind of wanted that too.
That's good too.
No, it is. And I'm just saying, I can see why certain people didn't want to partake, because it was just crystallizing, making them feel inadequate. And also, the academic element of it is not insignificant either. I don't know, like, I think when it gets closer to exams time, there's certain students that look at that hour block in their diary and think that's better served studying physics or whatever.
Yeah.
And that definitely became an issue, especially in state exam years.
Yeah. I've no great problem with that if someone feels that way a couple of months out from the exam, Yeah, well, okay, I'm with you.
Where does that begin, I suppose?
Sure.
And I'm looking at it as an underage coach as well at the club, but just people disappearing from April onwards. Like, you have time, you have an hour a week to come down to train. It'd be better for you, but it's a podcast for another day.
Paul emailed in, as teacher, I find it baffling that we make students do 2 hours of religion at junior cycle and we make them do religion again at senior level, even though it's not an exam subject at Leaving Cert. I taught in a school in the UK which trialled a few things to get kids active. 2 things worked brilliantly. Under the desk, there were cycle pedals attached, and the kids could use these pedals at any time they wanted during the lesson. Brilliant for ADHD kids, and definitely improved everyone's learning in the classroom. It's novel, hadn't heard of that. And secondly, instead of chairs, kids used exercise balls, and I'd often get them to squat, but just sitting on them is even a workout. Just some outside-the-box thinking to help our students' health and well-being. Thanks for the work. Best of luck, Paul. He's the UK. It's very progressive. And then a last one. Hi, fellas. Congrats on the podcast. You're off to a flying start. You would have been expecting to hear from primary school teachers, and here we are. Just to bring you up to date with the latest, we have a new curriculum coming in next year where PE will be folded into SPHE as a new subject called Wellbeing, with 3 hours a week allocated, but no clearer guidance than that so far. You did hit upon the exact issue. The curriculum is very squeezed, huge emphasis on English literacy in particular. We seem to be sailing further into obesity and a lack of activity. I teach in a DESH school, and so any issues nationwide seem to be compounded. Little or no access to sport or physical activity outside of school. Thanks for bringing attention to it, and it's clear that government intervention is the next step. We hope. Cheers, says Derek. Thanks for all the emails. Indo Sport Podcast at independent.ie. Indo Sport Podcast at independent.ie. Do get in touch. Okay, before you have to run for your train, All Stars football one's announced today. What's kind of amazing about this is Niall Morgan in goals aside, every single outfield player has won an All-Star for the first time. Surely that's never happened before.
I can't remember something like that. It's also the second year in a row that a team who won a provincial championship hasn't been included. Dublin this year, Galway last year. So it's showing how that's waning in importance. The provincial championships going the way of the National League. But that's incredible. And Niall Morgan to get a multiple All-Star, having not been to the quarter-final, as well as another anomaly. So there's a few little bits of talking points in there.
You felt he didn't deserve it?
I don't know. Like, are we talking about who's the best goalkeeper in Ireland or who's the best goalkeeper of this year?
Well, surely it's
two
the
different
latter.
questions.
But surely it's the latter. It's this year.
Because he is the best goalkeeper. I don't think anyone's arguing with that.
Yeah, but with that logic, David Clifford gets an All-Star.
Yeah, so Tyrone played 6 championship games, lost 3 of them. The most meaningful game he probably played in was the game against Donegal, and he dropped the ball to allow Donegal to equalise, and they subsequently won the game in extra time. And then you've got Blaine Hughes, who's been utterly immaculate for the entire season, like barring the closing moments of the All-Ireland final where he was standing on one leg and could only kick, and Galway finally cottoned on to the fact that he could only kick the ball one direction. If that's not something that's rewarded for this kind of award, where Blaine Hughes will conceivably never get another crack at this.
Do Niall Morgan's outfield exploits carry a big weight?
Yeah, but in what game though?
Oh, I don't know.
Do you know what I mean? What's his body of work? He didn't even get to the All Ireland series, like the knockout part of it. They went out, like if he's Tyrone's marquee player or one of them, and they went out with a whimper against Roscommon, so much so that the management team is gone. Yeah. I don't know. I just think there's a few misgivings from the Armagh corner on 6 is a fairly low tally for an All Ireland winning team. Mm-hmm. And Blaine Hughes and Aaron McKay would be seen as like I would have thought certainties, and then potentially even Rory Grugan as well, Stephen Campbell. So basically, me and Conor were talking about it. The definitive moment of the whole championship is Aaron McKay's goal in the All Ireland final. He's not in the team. Stephen Campbell sets it up. He's not even nominated. I just think
he was off the bench a lot, though, wasn't he?
Yeah,
but it can't be just for what you do in an All Ireland final either.
No, but Armagh wouldn't have won the All Ireland without Aaron McKay, Stephen Campbell, or Blaine Hughes. But if any of them are in the team.
Yeah, but where do you draw the line there? Say Aaron McKay doesn't play once all year and comes off the bench and has a moment which wins the All Ireland. For me, you're not in the All Star team for that.
Yeah, I'm actually less, because if you could make the point to me, who would you take out to put Aaron McKay in, and I can't disagree with anyone that's in that defence.
Yeah,
I just think he made a very strong case. I think Blaine Hughes is probably the unlucky one, and to my point, I just think it's unfortunate for him, considering he wasn't on the panel last year. Ethan Rafferty was doing his thing as this fly goalkeeper extraordinaire. He got back in because of an unfortunate injury to Rafferty and played exemplary football, and this might be his only chance to win one.
They can't take that into account. They can't take this might be his only chance as a criteria.
Yeah, but then are we doing the whole... Remember Marcelo used to get in the Ballon d'Or team every year just because he's Real Madrid's left back? Oh, let's just put him in. Niall Morgan's the best goalkeeper in Ireland, but he didn't necessarily deserve to win the All-Star this year. That's my opinion.
Okay, let me give the team very quickly. So it's a Galway Armagh bonanza, really. Johnny McGrath, Galway at number 2 for what that's worth. Barry McCambridge, full back. Pater Mogan, number 4, Donegal. Half back line, Dylan McHugh, Galway. Aidan Forker, Armagh. And then Craig Lennon of Louth, who scored 4-7 from play. Midfield is Paul Conroy, Galway, and Ben Creeley, Armagh. And then forwards, Reno O'Neill, Armagh, John Maher, Galway. He was so good. He's such an underrated footballer. I'm glad he got. He's a brilliant player. Oisin Connolly, Armagh. Robert Finnerty, Galway. Oisin Gallen, Donegal. And Conor Turbot of Armagh. Are people up in arms about this team? Is this generally acceptable? I have just no interest in this.
Well, let's explore that in a second. I think it's a very good team. Okay. I agree. I think Aaron McKay should have been in. To Ronan's point of who to take out, I just think you start with Aaron McKay and then fight over somebody else. There's 7 players there. I think McKay should be first on the list of the 6 defenders.
First on the list?
I thought he was brilliant. Yeah, I thought he was
well, then that's a big omission if he's first and he's not made the top 6.
I thought he was...
Vinicius Jr., he'd never play football again if that happened to him.
Yeah, and as much as I didn't like to drive by on Marcelo as well, but I thought Aaron McKay did everything. He man marked, he played wing back, he played full back, he played sweeper, and he scored the most important score in the championship. I think he was a contender for Player of the Year, never mind being on the All-Star team. Him and McCambridge would be the first 2 on the defence for me.
No, it's ready-made ammunition for Kieran McGinney next year, Joe. We have been disrespected here.
But hang on, why do you not like this, Stu?
Because they're silly. Individual awards like this, it's just kind of it's sorry. I don't mind the concept. It's all the debate around it I just find very tiresome. You don't know in any given game what instructions a player has been given. You don't know what injuries players are playing through.
Yeah.
You don't know fair enough. You can pick a team based on the performances. It's fine. I don't have a problem with the concept. I just don't find it interesting.
It's like a Gareth Crooks team almost, just throw people together.
It's just a mishmash of whatever.
Yeah. Just on the Stephen Campbell thing though, because you were saying he's coming off the bench, and I actually have a theory. If Stephen Campbell played 70 minutes every match and didn't do one thing more than what he did this championship, he would definitely be getting an All-Star.
He had enough moments.
It was also a latter aspect of the campaign where he was sprung from the bench as a dedicated ploy, where they realised
He's
so good.
Yeah.
He started the Ulster final and was great in that game. You know what I mean? He's like,
Well, here's where every annoying All-Star debate ends. Who are you taking out to put him in? Oh, I couldn't possibly say. Oh, no, don't make me say that.
I think that one's a bit easier. I'd take Rob Finnerty out.
I'm glad you asked this question, too.
You're sitting on Finnerty there for the last 5 minutes, were you?
I don't know. I just think, Rory Grugan, also deserving. But I know. I just think, as a broader topic, it is interesting because we had the Ballon d'Or discussion earlier, and that's
also silly.
That's kind of newfangled, even though like I've never heard of anyone boycotting an award ceremony like that before. And then, like in American sports, it's always happening in the background. It's like almost the first topic, who the MVP favorite is 2 weeks into the season. You're like, how can you possibly have that? But I think Irish sports people are almost predisposed not to make a big deal of individual awards. And they have to keep it, like, play it down. But
play it down, yeah.
I'd say it means a huge deal to them.
And don't get me wrong, they should all be thrilled with their achievements. Yeah. They're great achievements. I don't want to give the wrong impression. Like, best of luck to them. It's an amazing thing. And they do play it down. No, just listen, Joanne, no, Joanne. That's the interview tomorrow. But I presume you're right. Secretly, they're thrilled.
Yeah.
It's just, to even the Ballon d'Or thing, it just leaves me cold. Like Rio Ferdinand, long discussed at this stage, that was his instinct when Vinicius scored in the Champions League final.
Yeah.
Was to, what does this mean for the Ballon d'Or? That never even occurs to me. Like, how do you compare the skill sets of a Vinicius Jr. with a Rodri, with an Ederson? Like, it's just silly.
Is it more important for counties that don't win as much? Because I think I do feel personally invested in it, and I still feel gripes from back in the noughties. Paddy Bradley only got one for Derry, and Barry Owens got two for Fermanagh. Like, I can tell you that from the top of my head.
Yeah, okay.
And
it's not just like this obsession with lists that we all have and rankings. Like, it's just silly.
Like, it just recognises these players that they've reached the top of the game.
But I don't know. I would not have known how many All-Stars Bradley has. But I know what a footballer he was. It's an irrelevance to me. I don't know how many All-Stars anyone has.
I remember going to Thomas O'Shea's house down in Florida Island, and we had a videographer with us, and he was like, do you have any, a medal cabinet or anything I could get a shot of? And he said, there'd be a few trophies there on the table now, and there was 5 All-Star trophies just lined up on the table.
Listen, if I won them, they'd be on my table.
Yeah.
Would you know who was player of the year last year in football?
James McCarthy. Wasn't even nominated. It was
David Clifford.
It was David Clifford, yeah.
Was Clifford last year?
Yeah.
Year before?
No, it was Clifford the year before.
Was it not last
2023.
year? 2023. I thought it was last year.
There you go, Joe. Great point. Well made. Brian Fenton won it last year, did he?
No, but Dublin won it. And then Paul Flynn was like,
he tweeted.
He got smoked.
Yeah.
Remember, David Clifford got smoked.
Clifford
He shouldn't win
smoked.
Footballer of the Year, and then he did win Footballer of the Year.
So Clifford won it last year?
I think so, yeah.
But you don't know?
No, I'm fairly certain.
Don't Google.
No, but Colin made me second guess
Sorry,
myself.
you're right, because Kerry won the All-Ireland. You're bang on.
Dublin
Kerry
won
the
it, but Clifford won the
Kerry won 2022. Dublin win 2023. Clifford wins Footballer of the Year. But Shane McGuigan, see, I was coming back
Shane
around to
McGuigan should have won it.
Shane McGuigan won top scorer. I am so sorry, Joe.
How will I sleep tonight?
You need to get in that train.
You do need to go and get a train.
Yeah.
You do actually. It's 1:03.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can go. We've got something to finish.
Okay, yeah. You're not going to talk about Derry while I'm away, are you?
No.
I don't think so.
You can send a WhatsApp voice note and
We're nearly finished. We're just faffing here. We're just killing time. Don't worry about it. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you later.
Okay. Conan Doherty leaving studio. It's all very dramatic. Getting his train. Just to finish up, because we did want to touch on this very briefly, from the All-Stars of today to an All-Star and presumptive hurler of the year tomorrow. Shane O'Donnell was speaking to GA Social Podcast. I just thought you mentioned this to me, and it is very interesting. The image rights of players, I would have thought they would have had some control over where their images go, and it doesn't seem to be the case. I'm thinking this is like, Phil Mickelson always used to gripe about this on the PGA Tour, that if you're a PGA Tour player, we own your image rights. That's just the deal. Yeah. We can put them anywhere. We can use them forever. That's just the way it is. So he's been talking about how he's been working on the GPA about this situation for the last while, because he says, I'll give you an example. GAA Go last year, he said, not a particularly popular initiative, and one that I personally don't agree with. So Shane O'Donnell not in agreement with GAA Go. I don't agree with it. But then I see on the GAA Go website all year that they're selling the season pass with my image, my picture, and 3 other players right above the part where it says buy for X amount in euro. Now, to anyone, you could think that we're endorsing it or that we've given our explicit consent, that we would be up there on the website. That's not the case. We weren't even asked. I don't want to be endorsing GAA Go because I don't agree with it. So really, I just want them to have to ask me, can we put your image up there? No. Okay, next person. That's a very fair request, I would say. Like right across the board, be it like if there's an energy drink sponsor or GAA Go or any headline sponsor, if for any reason player wouldn't want their image used, I think a quick, even a text message, we're thinking of using this GPA, just want to double check, is that okay with you? Yeah, it is. Very reasonable.
Yeah, to be fair, it's something I hadn't really considered until he brought it up. I suppose GAA Go in the form that we know it now as something that's available domestically and not as the international service it had been. Like, you are using someone's likeness to make people part with their money.
Yeah.
And there should be some sort of agreement there. I don't think Shane would have any issue being used on the front of the match programme, for example, or, you know, in the banner coming into Croke Park. I think that's different. But yeah, I think it's definitely something they're going to have to consider, and probably a shoe that's going to drop on this, that the GAA Go has already been a complex enough thing for the GAA to make palatable. Whether they've even been successful in that, I don't know. But this is, even the players are voicing their concerns now.
Before we go, just the football last night. League Cup was on. Newcastle beat Chelsea 2-0. Chelsea at Old Trafford on Sunday. Spurs beat Man City 2-1. Weakened Manchester City side and a weakened Spurs side. It's just one of those things. But Manchester United 5, Leicester City 2. Oh, to be a manager. Ten Hag at home, admittedly with his 15 million. So, I mean, small tears. But
I think he's resting his feet on, it's just piled up, and he just has his feet resting on the 15 million.
So, a big problem with Manchester United this season is they have the least efficient XG on paper. They actually have created chances, but the result has been pictured Diogo Dalot missing at West Ham kind of moments, and that's kind of summed up their season under Ten Hag. But last night, from the 15th minute, it was a goal bonanza. Casemiro with a scorcher, and then Garnacho with a brilliant finish. Bruno scored 2. Casemiro weighed in with another. Van Nistelrooy is celebrating. I mean, it's a good It's a good job that they seem to have locked in Amorim, because another one or two of these.
What was I saying yesterday?
You know who'd be at the wheel.
Van Nistelrooy must have been thinking, he looked so good yesterday.
What did he wear? I was out last night. I didn't see anything.
What is it, like a long, I was going to say a trench coat, but it wasn't. It was a long below the knee number.
Oh, yeah.
And
so he didn't go for tracksuit.
No, and he just very, very well presented.
Because he's been very tracksuit, obviously, alongside Ten Hag, but he decided to wear some civvy clothes.
Beautifully manicured beard, you know, he really went for it. And someone was like, basically, if this is my one shot, I'm going to give it my one shot. But like, someone was making the point as he was coming through the tunnel at the beginning of the game, and they're all chanting rude at him, and he's like applauding the crowd. He's like, there's no way he didn't consider this moment when he took the job as assistant, that this was a potential thing. So he had his moment in the floodlights.
It's still to be confirmed, by the way, if he's going to be kept on. Obviously, Amorim will want his own coaching staff. Van Nistelrooy's family are at home in the Netherlands, and he's in an apartment alone in Manchester. So, but he, by all accounts, he still very much wants to stay. So we'll see. The Amorim thing is progressing. They're going to have to fess up another few million just to get past this 30-day notice period, but that'll be taken care of.
Seems like the fudge is that they'll give Sporting want Amorim to stay past the Man City game in the Champions League next week, and the Braga game, which is significant domestically for them, and then basically once the next international window rolls around, that's the time he'll depart, and he'll be ready to take over. Basically, I think his first game will be against Ipswich at the end of November. So that's how it's looking.
Okay. I think that's us done for today. It's been a busy week. It was nice to just
decompress.
Yeah. Richie Hogan's in tomorrow, reading the book.
What a player, Joe.
That's a tough dressing room.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Player power or?
Strong dressing room, strong manager.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
If the manager sets the bar and the players have to reach that, it's probably
Yeah. Like, the scene I read last night, I still have about 150 pages to go. So I don't know how it finishes with him and Cody. There was obviously, it was certainly noted that he never thanked Cody in his retirement post. But so this is 2012. They've lost to Galway in the Leinster final. And it's half-time in the first qualifier out the gate subsequently. And again, it's Limerick possibly. They've been average enough first half. They even might be ahead, but they've been average. It's been bad. Or maybe they're behind by a point or two. And Cody hasn't come into the dressing room yet. And Richie Hogan, who's, beginning to emerge as forceful personality leader, he's on his feet, like rousing the troops a little bit. That's not good enough, that kind of thing. Door is kicked open. Cody. It's like, you sit the F down now, says to Hogan. Yeah. And then he's like, where's Richie Power? He's on the treatment table. He's on the treatment table. And then he turns back around and sees, because Richie says, I'm sort of stunned to the spot that he's just eyeballed me, pointed at me, said, you sit the F down right now. When he thought, I was trying to be a leader in here. So Cody swings back around and Hogan's still standing up. And he says, I said, sit the F back down. When are you going to start effing up living? When are you going to start living up to all this effing potential?
Oh.
Everyone's heads, eyes down to the floor. Hogan just has to sit down. So it's tough school. But then, they go and they win the game. They have dinner subsequently. And Richie's like, I'm fine with Cody. I was a bit of collateral damage. I'm not going to go taking that personally. That's fine. So it's strong. This is senior hurling kind of a relationship, But it's good stuff.
Yeah, I think there's a maturity in those Kilkenny lads that they realise their success probably wasn't achievable on that scale without Brian Cody, and they're willing to, take that medicine. Yeah. I think there's an understanding, and they don't have to be bosom buddies. Like it's always said, we don't need to be best mates, and seemingly a lot of them, it's not. It's a very much a professional relationship in an amateur sphere.
Yeah, yeah. I'll give you one more. He was 11 territory when he's really starting to play well for Kilkenny, and they're down at Seafield, and he's marking Jackie Tyrrell in a practice match, and he wins the first ball, scores a point. Next ball that comes in, a wild stroke from Tyrrell, like vicious, like across his face, and Cody, whistle in the pocket, says nothing, loves it.
Yeah.
And then next ball is reined in on top of them, and this shows like what Richie Hogan's made of. So Jackie Tyrrell's eyes on the ball, hand up, ready to catch it, and Hogan is not even looking at the ball. He takes back his hurl and slashes it into the chest, the exposed chest of Jackie Tyrrell, full force. He then takes back his hurl and slashes it for a second time into the chest of Jackie Tyrrell.
Should I be laughing?
I don't know. And all hell breaks. They just start going at it.
Jackie Tyrrell's like, not the face, Richie, not the face.
Whistle not blown.
Oh, God, no.
Play continues. Moments later, another ball is...
Oh, come on, they're still playing.
Play continues.
Oh, stop.
Play continues.
Stop.
Whistle's not, another ball is launched down Tottenham, but they're still fighting.
I thought you meant...
They haven't got back
when
up.
You said the whistle hasn't gone, I just presumed everyone just stopped playing anyway.
Oh, no. Play continues. The two boys are sorting it out between themselves. That's fine. But the lovely thing is, dressing room afterwards, Jackie Tyrrell's in the ice bath. Hogan goes and sits right next to him. Neither say a word to each other. Jackie Tyrrell gets up, goes back to get changed. Hogan moves his gear over, sits beside Jackie Tyrrell. Neither of them say a thing about what's just happened. Two massive borderline scars across Tyrrell's chest. And as a result, they end up sitting beside each other like that for the next 5 years.
Oh.
I mean...
It's a beautiful ending to an otherwise, I don't know, aggressive story?
Aggressive story. So lots of good stuff like that in it. So he's in tomorrow. He's super impressive fellow on a whole host of levels. Right, are we done?
All done.
Okay. That's bits and bobs, and we'll talk to Richie Hogan tomorrow. Paul McGinley interview, I would very much recommend it, even if you're not a golf fan. It's good. Thanks, Ro.
Cheers, Joe.